Hi everybody. So the question I want to look at today is, what is happiness? Another way to ask that is, how can I be happy? This is a really basic and important question, and for me it has a lot of layers. For me, happiness is related to wisdom. It's about making good choices. And happiness is not the same as pleasure. It's not the same as hedonism, just doing what you want. For me, happiness is about connection. Connection with self, connection with others. It's about making agreements with yourself and with others and following through on them, even though they may be difficult. So for me, happiness is related to wisdom. So you might ask, what is wisdom? Well, that's a tough question too. I think that happiness and wisdom are both byproducts of activities, of choices that we make in the world. I feel as if the great religions of the world are wisdom traditions to learn from. And for me personally, there have been some great writers who've taught me a lot about life, understanding myself and understanding other people better, understanding the existential situation that we live in. So for me, the major writers have been Friedrich Nietzsche, philosopher, Virginia Woolf, the novelist, Marcel Proust, another novelist, as well as people like Karl Marx, Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, Martin Heidegger. You know, there are a lot of Germans in that list, and unfortunately I don't read German, though I tried to learn the language. It wasn't for me, at least not at the time. So there's a lot there, and I won't be able to talk about it all in one video. But, there's another figure who I forgot to mention. The Buddha has been really important to me. And I'd like to talk in future videos about how these people have shaped me. I believe, following Karl Marx, that capitalism has a huge effect on who we are, in the sense of how we can divide our days into work and leisure, how much leisure we have. You know, I live in a relatively rich country, and I'm a middle class person, essentially a middle income person. So I have a lot more leisure time and affluence than the average person on the planet. And that's very humbling. It makes me feel responsible. Someone once described responsibility as the ability to respond. I really like that definition. I was born in India and came to Canada when I was almost 7 years old. I went back to India when I was 17 for a month, and I went back when I was about 40 for a month. So I've learned a lot about India, and my background is Indo-European on both sides. I realize I have a lot of privilege, and I'm grateful for it, and I want to find ways in which I can share my wealth, financially, in terms of time, as well as in terms of knowledge. And so that's one of the reasons I'm making these videos. So a big part of how can I be happy for me is, and my understanding of the world has to do with how you can fit yourself into the economic system that we have in a way that will create enough leisure time for you to be able to connect with people, family, friends, yourself, nature, animals. To me, that's one of the fundamental questions of how to live today, is what kind of a job do I have? Will it give me enough time to do what matters to me? Or can I find a job that really matters to me and do meaningful work? Because work is how we spend most of our days. Not all of us have the opportunity, the education, the means, the circumstances in our lives to be able to find jobs that are fulfilling. But this is a human-made situation, and we as collective, thoughtful, loving beings can change that. We can create more meaningful jobs, both for others and for ourselves. So a big part of happiness has to do with meeting your basic needs. Abraham Maslow has a hierarchy of needs. But once those basic needs are met, needs for security, food, water, shelter, we begin to look for connection with other people. And a famous experiment has been done on monkeys, where the monkey would rather choose connection than food, even. So I think it's a mistake to say that we would prefer food over connection. That's a tricky area, and I'm not a social scientist, I'm not a psychologist. So I can't provide the details of that experiment, but it rings true for me. I think our bellies could be full all our lives, but if we feel disconnected, we'll be deeply unhappy. On the other hand, if we're starving to death and we're surrounded by love, people who love us, and we feel cared for, we could die happy. So, the economic component. There's also an ethical component and an emotional component to happiness that's really important. The ethical component is about making agreements with ourselves and with others and keeping them. And the emotional component is opening our hearts to love ourselves and others. There's an intellectual component as well, which is looking at the beliefs and the ideas that you have and asking whether they serve your happiness. For example, a disabling belief that I located in myself recently is the belief that if I see scarcity around me, I cannot have abundance. I shouldn't have abundance. I don't deserve abundance. I'm not worthy of abundance. When there seems to be so much scarcity around, scarcity of time, scarcity of money, scarcity of love. So that was a belief that I recognized in myself, and now I can dismantle it. So happiness is also related to joy and creativity. What do you love to do? And how can you spend most of your time doing it? Usually that question of what you love to do in a sustainable way, and not just in a way that gives you pleasure, but in the sense of following your bliss, usually it has to do with connection to yourself, to other beings. So those are my thoughts on happiness, and I better end this video while it's still a decent length. Thanks for watching.